Before we start what I'm sure will be a controversial video, I want to make something clear that I didn't really explain in my Phantom Troop Power Scaled video, which I recommend before watching this video, just as some of the feats I reference in this video are fully explained in that one. And that is that just because I rank someone higher doesn't mean I think they will 100% beat everyone below them all the time. As in the right situation, with the right Hatsu, even a weaker character can beat a stronger one, so keeping all that in mind, I will mainly be ranking on physical power, so speed, durability, strength and whatnot, on combat skill, Nen mastery and Hatsus that may, more often than not, give an advantage in battle, and just the overall portrayal of the character. I'll be excluding characters with little to no feats as we really can't power scale them. As well, there is nothing to scale, so for that reason you won't be seeing Jing, Pariston, the ZOLDYCK, Beyond NETERO, 4th Prince, Sereknik, Maha ZOLDYCK or Don FREECSS on the list, as there is just so little to go on with this lot that ranking them would just seem unprofessional. And oh, I'm not having Alaka on the list, as although yes, with the right conditions, she could beat anyone on the list. On her own, no chance, as she can't just make wishes on her own, so yeah, you could put her number 1, but I will not. So I hope this is all clear, and of course if you disagree, comment down below why, but please keep it civil as this video is a platform for discussion rather than me objectively saying which 10 characters are the definitive strongest. So anyway, if you find yourself entertained at any time during the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe and ring the bell, as you don't know how much such a small action can do for this channel. Anyway, on with the video. Number 10 is SILVA ZOLDYCK, and I think most people would agree he is a top tier. First off, he one-shot Chitu, who was a squadron commander trained by both Pitou and Poof, which if you watch my Phantom Troop power scaling video will show you that he easily scales above nearly all the troop, including Phaeton. So all those people saying Phaeton beat SILVA, please go watch that video. So based on this feat, we can say he is at least significantly physically stronger than a squadron commander. He also killed a troop member and then survived a resulting fight with CHROLLO without any lasting damage, though it should be noted that CHROLLO was weaker back then than he was currently, but it is still CHROLLO. However, based on his fight in York New, we can say he is at least somewhat comparable to CHROLLO, but by no means stronger, which is evident by the fact CHROLLO fought both him and ZENO at the same time while not trying to kill them. Also, CHROLLO shrugged off his punches pretty easily, and although this is very contentious, I would personally say that he seems to take more damage from HISOKA's punches than SILVA's, meaning SILVA would be physically weaker than HISOKA, though I can see why people may disagree there. He doesn't really have any hacks Hatsus. He can transmute large energy bombs which have enough destructive power to destroy a large wall and shake a small skyscraper, but apart from that he hasn't got any shown Nen abilities that would give him any kind of hacks. So for that reason, his physical showings and skill as an assassin are what we need to go on for his placement on the list. Number 9 is SILVA's father, ZENO, and you could argue ZENO is weaker than SILVA, but I think there is more evidence for the contrary. Based purely on portrayal, ZENO is often seen with NETERO, which would indicate he is top tier. And after fighting CHROLLO specifically chose to address ZENO when asking who would win a fight over SILVA, showing that he may see ZENO as the more experienced and stronger fighter. But in terms of feats, he can extend his N to 300 meters, which is ridiculous when you consider a Nen Master can do 50, and Kite, a person said to be above a Nen Master, can only do 45. And yes, being skilled at Nen doesn't automatically make you a strong fighter, but I think Dragon Dive alone is enough to show how destructive ZENO can be with just aura alone. He is also a skilled assassin with decades of experience, which has to count for something, and is at least comparable to CHROLLO, as when they discussed who would win one-on-one, ZENO does suggest CHROLLO was more likely to win, but never makes out it's a stomp or anything like that. And another thing I think is often overlooked is that ZENO is employed by NETERO in the Chimera and Arc, not just to transport him and MERUEM to the site of their fight, but also to help separate MERUEM from the Royal Guard, indicating that NETERO at least expected ZENO to help him fight both the Royal Guard and MERUEM, meaning that NETERO thought ZENO was strong enough to contend with the Royal Guard, which I think is something most people overlook, but definitely speaks volumes to how strong ZENO can be if NETERO believes he can fight the Royal Guard. So yeah, you can put SILVA at 9 and ZENO at 10, but that's really up to your own opinion. Tied at 8th and 7th are CHROLLO and HISOKA. I break down these two in a lot more detail in my Phantom Troop power scaling video, but I'll summarise here. HISOKA and CHROLLO, as shown by their fight, are pretty comparable, with HISOKA being a far more physically powerful fighter, easily shown by how little CHROLLO's punches do to HISOKA, and how much damage HISOKA's do in return, but CHROLLO being way more tactically masterful, using several Hatsus at once while fighting HISOKA. CHROLLO, as said before, fought with ZENO and SILVA, fighting them 2-on-1 without actually trying to kill them, merely wanting to steal their powers, and as said by ZENO, if they fought 1-on-1, CHROLLO would more likely win. So just by HISOKA being comparable to CHROLLO, that would also place HISOKA as stronger than ZENO and SILVA, and so higher on the list. Now CHROLLO did beat HISOKA in the fight, however he did have all the time he needed to prep for the fight, and may or may not have had the help from other spiders. Also, HISOKA is much stronger now due to post-mortem Nen, so it really is wishy-washy who is stronger. But since this is a list, I will give the number 8 spot to CHROLLO and the number 7 spot to HISOKA, just as without prep time and a fair fight, I don't think CHROLLO could stand up to the raw power of HISOKA. But yeah, this is really up to your own opinion, and either or could place at 7th or 8th. 6th is Pouf, and well, of course he was going to make the list as he is a member of the Royal Guard. Based on aura alone, Cult estimated Pouf could beat NETERO, and although this probably isn't true, it is still a very impressive feat of aura capacity if nothing more. He tanks a strike from suppressed MERUEM and survives, which isn't to say he would stand a chance against a MERUEM who was trying all out, but is a notable feat when you consider a similar strike one-shot a squadron commander by taking off their head. And just remember that when SILVA one-shot Cheetu, he didn't destroy the head, as yes, Cheetu is probably more durable than Turtle Boy, but the point still stands that a suppressed MERUEM's tail swipe is somewhat comparable to SILVA's enhanced punch, meaning that Pouf could probably survive a full power punch from SILVA with only moderate damage. His speed is also insane, enough to dodge ZENO's Dragon Dive, and was able to strike Morel from behind and take his giant pipe before Morel could even react. Though it should also be mentioned that Morel didn't take much damage from one of Pouf's kicks, which would definitely scale his attacks below Chimera and Gon's rock, which was said to be strong enough to kill Morel, but Chimera and Gon is a monster anyway. Pouf can use his Hatsu Beelzebub to split his body into many more smaller bodies, which may give him an edge in battle, but this does come at the cost of durability, so I wouldn't exactly call it a hack's ability. Overall, Pouf is a Royal Guard at the end of the day, which easily secures him his place on the list, but just isn't as combat orientated as either Peter or Youpi, so I definitely can't place him any higher. Especially when number 5 is Youpi, who is leagues more powerful than Pouf in combat. I mean, let's just look at his performance in the Palace Invasion. Within 20 seconds he was able to shoot a skilled pro hunter in his own right in critical condition, while also having been caught off guard and also being attacked by Knuckle and Melorion, with them also receiving help from Morel and KILLUA. And in this exchange he didn't suffer any damage. Also, according to Youpi, none of the members of the extermination team he encountered had so much as a tenth of his raw power, including Morel, who was shown to be very powerful in his own regard. He also destroys the staircase with enough force to make the palace shake. Now this is a similar feat to SILVA, who made the cemetery building shake, but I don't think I need to explain why one is more impressive than the other when you consider the size difference between the two buildings. He tanked a tail swipe from MERUEM much like Pouf and was undamaged by KILLUA's attack, an attack which vaporised Pouf's flesh on contact. Though that Pouf was at 1/7 power, but even so I think the difference in durability is clear. I guess you could also use Youpi walking out on the poor man Rose's crater unharmed as a durability feat, but this isn't as definitive as the other feats I mentioned. His speed is obviously impressive, just watch his fight against Shoot, and in his centaur form, he moves so fast he overtook Knuckle before the latter even realised. However, his most destructive and powerful attribute is his Hatsu Rage Cannon, which leaves a crater on a comparable level to that of either Benolon's Jupiter or Ubukin's Big Bang Impact, depending on your opinion, just as getting a clear measurement of this crater is kinda hard. And using Metamorphosis, he can change his body in all manner of ways to better counter his opponents. So I don't think anyone would disagree that he should be this high on the list. Number 4 is Pito, and although you could make an argument for Youpi being stronger, as his feats are at least more destructively impressive, I think this is easily debunked when you consider the Yu Yu Hakusho character guide Shueisha Jump remix, where it definitively says Pito is the strongest royal guard, with it saying Pito held strength second only to the king. But yeah, his feats, and yes I'm calling Pito a he, you can really call any of the royal guard whatever you want, so don't comment on the whole Pito gender kerfuffle as I am aware, but yes, feats. Pito speed-wise is ridiculous. He travels the kite with an estimated speed of Mach 40 to 250, and is said to be twice as fast when leaping at NETERO, which means you can double his speed to Mach 80 to 500. Being a royal guard and the strongest at that, he is definitely a monster in combat. I mean, he kills Kite with only a few bruises and scuffs to show for it, while not having a solid grasp on his own Nen, and manages to easily sever Kite's arm in a single attack. And Kite, remember, is a monster in his own right, easily scaling to just under CHROLLO, HISOKA, SILVA and ZENO levels of power. And if you want a full rundown of Kite's power, then watch my Phantom Troop power scaling video. Pito also tanks an attack from NETERO's 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva, without being injured, and survives multiple rocks from adult Gon before actually dying, which is insane when you remember that Gon is comparable in power to MERUEM, but I will go into more detail on that in a bit. His observation skills should also not be overlooked, as in a fight such skills are paramount. He picked up NETERO and ZENO amongst the hundreds of dragons in ZENO's Dragon Dive in less than a second. He has insane smell, shown by how he picked out Pockle from among a pile of bones, and he can also use his monstrous end to observe anything that happens on the battlefield. So yeah, Pito is a monster, I don't think anyone would disagree. Number 3 is Isaac NETERO, and let me just say, you could make a good argument for NETERO being below Pito, as if you go back to the Yu Yu Hakusho guide Shueisha Jump remix, when it says Pito held strength only second to the king, this is in reference to adult Gon, with the whole quote being, "Towards Pito, who held a strength second only to the king, he displayed an even higher power on a completely different league." And from this you can easily infer that apart from MERUEM and Adult Gon, Pitou is the strongest in the verse, and so should be number 3. And in terms of raw stats, yes, Pitou is superior to NETERO. However, I do think NETERO's skill and experience would win him the fight, as well Kite could damage Pitou. Yes, and then inexperienced Pitou, but it's still Pitou. I don't think anyone would put Kite and NETERO in the same league, so I'm giving this to NETERO over Pitou, but if you want to take the guidebook, then sure, Pitou can be above NETERO. But anyway, let's get to feats. He fell 2 kilometers without taking any damage, beat multiple squadrons advanced to death barehanded, and with his Hatsu could ragdoll Pitou and MERUEM. Speed though is where NETERO shines. Now there is a bit of an issue with NETERO's speed, as it is said his punches surpass the speed of sound. However, this isn't impressive at all, as Pitou, as said before, moves at a lowballed speed of Mach 80 or 80 times the speed of sound, and NETERO not only reacts to Pitou but also presses and swipes him away before Pitou could reach him. So at a low ball, NETERO is over Mach 80, and at a high ball is over Mach 500. So yeah, speed of sound punches aren't impressive, but I guess if you want to say that NETERO's punches without Nen surpass the speed of sound, that's more fair and could kind of explain this issue. But even if you want to stick with the speed of sound punches as a feat, NETERO could still surpass MERUEM in speed with his prayers and attacks, which is still an impressive speed feat. His endurance is also amazing, with a younger NETERO being able to perform 10,000 punches while using Ren for 18 hours straight, which is completely ridiculous when you think about all those episodes of Gon and Killua maintaining their Ren, and how strenuous on their bodies it was for significantly less amounts of time. His durability is also very impressive, with NETERO being scared Gon would crack open his skull and die if he headbutted his abs, and was able to lose 2 limbs and keep fighting without any reduction in speed. And all of this is just his physical feats, as he is also a master martial artist with decades of experience. And remember, MERUEM couldn't outspeed his attacks, meaning that no one in the series can either, meaning that unless his opponent has Royal Guard level durability or Hack's ability, NETERO should win pretty easily. However, even with the poor man's Rose, he couldn't beat MERUEM, so I think that really caps him off at this point on the list. Now Prime NETERO is a whole other can of worms, but since we have no feats for Prime NETERO, I will not discuss him in this video. So before we get to the top 2, how about some honourable mentions? ILLUMI, as said in my Phantom Troop video, is only slightly weaker than HISOKA and CHROLLO, so is in contention for a place on the list depending on if you think he's stronger than SILVA or ZENO. Kite, as said before, also scales around this range, and UVERGUN is a bit below this. Razor is a powerhouse enough to damage HISOKA in the dodgeball match and to somewhat earn HISOKA's respect, and could probably beat most of the spiders, so take that for what you will. KURAPIKA could very well make this list, but it's hard to say. His fight against UVERGUN was very impressive, and his healing Hatsu and power stealing Hatsu definitely give him some battle hacks, but we haven't seen him fight against anyone stronger than Uvo, let alone someone who isn't a spider, so if you want to scale him to CHROLLO level, feel free, I just don't see enough evidence to put him on that level. Lastly, KILLUA. He easily surpasses Youpi in speed, and considering he is debatably lightning level speed wise, he would definitely be comparable to Pitou in speed. However, although his speed is insane, his destructive power isn't as much so, at least against the fight of Youpi's durability. But yeah, KILLUA is still a powerhouse. So number 2 is Gon. Now base Chimera Anti Gon probably wouldn't make the list, but would be very close, but Adult Gon is easily top 2 in the verse. I mean, he is directly compared to MERUEM for one, and although yes, in the original manga it said that he's only a threat to the king and not a rival in power like he is in the anime, the Yu Yu Hakusho Character Guide Shueisha Jump remix does make clear that he displayed an even higher power on a completely different league. And whether this was just about Pitou or included MERUEM as well, I don't think there's any denying that based on this, Adult Gon is at least equal in power to base MERUEM. Granted, his kick to Pitou may not have sent the ant as far as NETERO's attack, but unlike NETERO's attack, Gon's made Pitou bleed, showing that at least a normal kick from Adult Gon does more damage than one of NETERO's attacks. He also easily surpassed Pitou in speed, a character that, as said before, can be highballed to Mach 500, and Gon is so fast, even Godspeed KILLUA, one of the fastest in the entire verse, can't keep up with him, struggling to process what was occurring while watching Gon pummel Pitou. And considering that you can make an argument for Pitou surpassing NETERO based on the guidebooks, and that Gon absolutely squashes Pitou, I don't think anyone should disagree that Gon is the second strongest in the verse, only behind MERUEM. Now yes, Gon, as said before, could be above base MERUEM, as that is what Pitou compared him to, but post-Rose MERUEM is even stronger and has some ridiculous feats, which we will now go over. So speed-wise, MERUEM in base is faster than all of NETERO's movements minus his prayer, which puts him up around those Pitou levels of speed. Strength-wise, he can easily destroy the heads of squadron commanders, and rips off NETERO and naturally enhances limbs without any effort. He managed to push back 2 of the hands of NETERO's 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva, which could easily ragdoll Pitou. His durability is no joke, as he took thousands of attacks from NETERO with only slight feelings of soreness and survived 0 hands, NETERO's ultimate technique, using all his aura with just some scratches and bruises. He then goes on to survive the poor man's Rose, which has been calculated around a yield of 18.5 megatons, which is equal to 18,500,000 tons of TNT. and has the intelligence to master many board games just from reading the rules, then goes on to best the national champions of these games. And after that, he applies his intelligence to battling, managing to predict NETERO's moves. And all of this is before he gets his power up. Post-Rose MERUEM has Light Speed N, which is easily the most impressive feat in the series in terms of speed. He appears behind Knuckle in an instant and uses his Rage Cannon to destroy a large hill of rock, which I believe is the most impressive feat in the series based on just visible destructive power. Knuckle also says an entire state military would be needed to take him down, though whether a state military is more powerful than the Poor Man's Rose, I think that is a contentious topic. Oh, and Poof also says his speed tripled, meaning that even at a low ball using those past calcs, he is going at Mach 240. Now you could highball Gon to being as strong as MERUEM if you take the guidebook statement to mean he has reached another level, even compared to post-Rose MERUEM, but I doubt it for a few reasons. The main one being MERUEM can clearly bust large rock hills with his casual Rage Cannon, but Gon's rock, his strongest attack, couldn't even kill Pitou in one shot. And yeah, you could argue Pitou's durability is higher than that rock hill. I mean, Uvagon's Big Bang Impact created this massive crater but only broke KURAPIKA's arm, though it should be noted that KURAPIKA was using 100% enhancement due to Emperor Time, but do you honestly think Emperor Time KURAPIKA is more durable than Pitou? But even all this aside, Pitou can take multiple of these rocks before dying, so even if you say she has the durability of this rock hill, I think it's a real stretch to say she's multiple times more durable, and as such Gon's rock shouldn't be able to replicate MERUEM's casual Rage Cannon. So yeah, MERUEM is the king for a reason, and he's only a child, with only a basic grasp of Nen. I mean, he never even develops any Hatsus on his own, so just think how maddeningly strong he could have become. And if you want to include Alaka on the list, I guess she is number 0, but I am not going to. So there you go, the top 10 strongest characters in Hunter. I'm sure the bottom 4 on this list are up for debate, but I reckon most people will agree on the rest of the list. However, if you do disagree, tell me below and please be civil. And if you haven't already, check out my Phantom Troop power scaling video as I go into a lot more depth on some of the characters and feats I mentioned in this video. While editing this video, I thought I should add this little bit at the end saying that if you don't like their calcs, I use their Pitou speed, because looking into it, I know a lot of people don't like the fact that Pitou is massively hypersonic, even though there's evidence she is. But anyway, if you don't like that, you can just disregard those speed calcs if you want. It doesn't make any difference to the video, as even if I said Pitou was going 2 miles per hour, all I'm saying is that Gon, MERUEM and NETERO are faster, so it would just mean they're faster than 2 miles per hour. So it doesn't make a difference to my list, but yeah, if you don't like the calcs, you can just ignore them. I think my arguments stand on their own, just thought I should say this in case anyone gets annoyed that I used calcs that they disagree with, because I want to keep this civil. Thank you. On with the comment of the week, I guess. Comment of the week comes from Hikaru Desu, and if the light novel really is quite good, make sure to tell me because I'll have to check it out. If you have an opinion on Hunter's power scaling as a whole, then tell me in the comment section down below. And if you have a suggestion for a future video, then again the comment section is down below. Also don't forget to check out my Twitter at SethTheSin for channel updates and just general chatter, and my DMs are always open if you want to chat to me directly. Or check out my Instagram at SethTheSin_cosplay to see my cosplays or random anime merchandise. So with all that said and done, I've been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek, and I am signing out. Stay safe everyone.